Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a beautiful weekend. Both Moulton and Christopher Nolan's Tenet are on track for summer openings. Can they save movies? What does that mean? We're going to unpack all of it right here on SJU this morning. I'm Ron Burgundy, and I'd like you to hit that like for us. Joe Starr is here, Danielle Radford, Spencer GIlbert. They're going to keep it all very on track. I promise. So can Tenet save movies? That's the question that we're asking today. Is Christopher Nolan, in fact, is he going to fulfill his destiny as the savior of the theatrical experience? I mean, he's been on track trying to do it for a lot of years, and now he just might be making that happen. This is via Variety. There's actually a really great column in Variety today. So after you finish watching this program and tweeting about it and sharing it with all your friends and hitting that like, go read it because it's actually very, very well written and thoughtful about what the movie-going experience may look like in the next couple of years. So let's break it down a little bit. As we know, a lot of productions, a lot of releases have been delayed in the last several months due to COVID and theaters closing. But in addition to that, we've been talking here about how does the slow reopening impact the theatrical experience, because the way that movies have gone in the last several years is large part, not always, but large part day and date global, right? For really, really big movies, because they need to have that big opening weekend. And there's a number of different reasons for that. One of which, and an internal side, is that the marketing department and the PR department is solely judged on that opening weekend. And after that, it's all down to word of mouth. So they are not judged on how good a job they did at marketing it or promoting the movie after that. It's really just, is the movie good? And that's kind of an old model. Is the movie good? Word of mouth. And then slowly people see it was the old model more in the 70s. And we may be returning to that as an interesting side effect of this current crisis. So let's talk about what we mean by that. So typically speaking, in order for a movie that is budgeted at these massive scales that they are, $200 million, $300 million with marketing costs included, they have to do massively well all over the world. And right now, the world is having a very different trajectory in terms of when it is reopening, how it is reopening, and we don't yet know how people are going to feel in terms of their comfort level of attending theaters. We don't know how the theatrical experience is going to be in terms of, will it be at half capacity and seats in between people? All of that will change that model pretty drastically, particularly when it comes to that opening weekend. I swear I'm getting to the point. Christopher Nolan's Tenet, with all of that in mind, is still scheduled to open on July 17th. And Nicky Caro's live action remake of Mulan is set for July 24th. So that is very ambitious considering where we are today. We don't know how many theaters are going to be open at that time, particularly in the US and places like New York and Los Angeles, where a lot of those dollars will come from. So this is a pretty big risk on the part of both Disney and Warner Brothers, respectively. Warner Brothers for Tenet and Disney for Mulan, of course. The Tenet budget is reported to be at $205 million. The Mulan budget is reported to be at $200 million. So two things. Christopher Nolan, as we said, advocated for Tenet to reopen. And I think the reason that he wants to do that, and he advocated for that, is he knows that it will take an initial hit. He must know that, given where the world is at. But I think that he wants to encourage people just to believe, in a certain respect, that theaters will come back and that movies will be a part of their lives again. And I think he's almost willing to, I don't know, I'm doing a lot of projection here, take the hit so that we can have that faith restored. So Wonder Woman is also still scheduled, 1984 is still scheduled for August 14th, which is, again, very ambitious. So three things. One, they could be looking at a very different model for how and when these movies become profitable. It'll be a combination of a slower theatrical rollout, which is, again, going back in time many, many years to more like the 70s, which will be really interesting if that actually changes the kind of movies that are made that aren't at these massive budgets anymore. And we do get the kind of character films that we saw in the 70s. That's me projecting and being hopeful. Two, is that we'll be looking at VOD releases, but also that they're looking at their respective platforms, HBO Max and Disney Plus, to be part of that equation in terms of encouraging subscriber bases, blah, 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 blah. You gonna go see these movies?
Yeah, probably someday.
Okay, we probably need to have a little more discussion.
You're gonna see these movies. Yes, we will see these movies. They're going to. It's interesting because, like you said, the '70s, and it's this very unique combination of factors that's letting this happen, where a film would be in theaters for months and months and months and months, and just have this slow build. I think this could only happen in this historical moment right now because what's Tenet going to compete with aside from isn't there the Russell Crowe? Yeah, Mulan, and there's like the Russell Crowe movie, right?
Fear Itself.
Yeah, and and competing with Fear Itself and The Spectre of Death. I think that this also reflects like this kind of phased opening. It used to happen for different reasons, but now it's going to happen because there's like green zones and red zones all across the country, and sometimes some places it's safer to go to a theater than others, so it'll be this weird staggered long-term kind of marathon theatrical run, and that's cool if it's done safely. I know Chris Nolan has like some serious fans. I hope they don't actually want to die for him. Like don't go to the theater if you have a cough. I know you want to see Tenet.
Die for the Nolheim.
Well, but that's a really good point, Spencer. Two things. One, you brought up the other week that you have mixed feeling. Was it on air? I don't know. About Star Wars, in the sense that Star Wars and Jaws were these great disruptors, right? To the type of theatrical experience that existed when they were released, and they changed the game going forward in terms of blockbusters and franchises. Does COVID reset what Jaws and Star Wars wrought, so that we do see a variety of kinds of films released and different kind of a very different financial model moving forward? And
I don't think so.
Oh,
I think what it does is you get the worst of that model, which is we're gonna get these enormous movies and fewer of them, but they'll stay in theaters for a really long time. Like you'll get 8 movies in theaters a year. They'll be gigantic, and they'll each take a quarter of the year to themselves.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair point. Especially now we're already at the point where if you're going to go see an Avengers movie and you're going to a Cineplex that's got 16 theaters, Avenger is 11 of those theaters, with a couple of others for like whatever kids movie is out, and maybe something about a dog, something where someone's grandma dies, but most of it is going to be an Avengers movie.
The core genres.
Avengers, kids, dead
dog, dead
grandma.
So yeah, it used to be romantic comedies too, but that's on Netflix now. But yeah, so I
that over.
Yeah, to Spencer's point, I do think that the best way for them to make money by doing that is literally going to be them going, this entire AMC is just Wonder Woman this weekend, or it's just this movie this weekend. And that is what it's going to be if you want to see that movie. And they will, I think it is worth it to them to make the economic, because even when they do open up, it's still going to be, there's going to be distance between people. It's still going to be having to wear masks inside, which is its whole other host of issues that I don't want to get too dark and bring in right now. But
they'll literally have, like you said, they'll literally have to fill an AMC entirely with Tenet just to like make up those seats with 2 seats in between person with doing urinal rules. They'll literally have to do that. It's not even like a decision of, well, will Wonder Woman make us a little more money than my new dog Skip? Like, which I'm working on right now. That's my project. It's they literally have to chunk out my new dog Skip. Sorry, Skip, you're going to VOD, just to make up for those lost seats.
Yeah,
Danielle, what were you gonna here on SJU? We don't have that. So, what were you gonna say?
Well, spoiler alert: Skip dies at the end. So I'm pro mask. I'm like, wear your mask outside, do all that stuff. I worry because we right now we're all talking about Corona and we're all talking about these other things. We still live in the United States. The United States.
Oh my God!
Its problems, and people being able to wear masks in public right now is something.
I don't like where you're going.
This is why I said I wasn't going to go there, Roth.
No, I'm sorry. I told you not. I told you don't go back, and then it scared me.
So now just the idea of opening, obviously things are going to open slowly and whatever. Eventually we're going to get to the point where we're going to start opening things. And eventually when things like wearing masks and keeping a certain amount of distance maybe becomes more of a norm thing, but we'll see. People are still fighting. then we start getting back to our good old other American problems.
So what Danielle is, I'm just gonna blonde-splain you like a jerk, but because I don't know if everyone picked up what you were saying, which was basically shootings.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That
Wait,
has been
what?
just because now, there's a big thing where it's like, it used to be you can't wear masks in banks, you can't wear masks if it's Halloween, you can't wear masks in a movie theater, you can't wear masks in a mall, like you can't do those things. And now you have to do those things, and you have to do a lot of things that essentially cover up your identity. And I don't know, that's just, for me, like, that's one of the first things that I thought of was like, as someone who I've worked in banks and had to be like, hey, I know it's Halloween and it's very cute, but like, you have to take your mask off, you can't have your mask on in a bank. Now everyone's wearing masks.
Yeah.
Those are like the first things. It doesn't necessarily make people bolder, but it is, it's the kind of thing you think of when it was something that like was part of your job to be like, hey, welcome to GameWorks. Sorry, I know it's Halloween, but you can't wear a mask inside. So that was the first thing I thought of.
I hadn't even thought of that, but now I am. Nothing but thank you. I will say one thing I did wonder about is, they've talked about in restaurants, to your point, Spencer, about going in with a cough. You won't be able to do that because they're talking about measures like taking your temperature. And so I wonder if, as you check in for your movie and you show your barcode, they also take your temperature and make sure you have your mask on and all of that stuff. And I don't know how much that detracts, because as we were talking about the other day, I think there's going to be a desire for escapist films even more than there has been. And for probably, you're right, it is going to be these big blockbusters that are whatever the modern day version of musicals are for us, which is like, I guess, dancing superheroes.
We're very close.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much sitting there in all of that fear detracts from the escapism.
Well, and for some people, I think it would actually make them feel more safe, because the temperature thing is actually really easy. Like it would be when they scan your ticket, they're also going to it's an infrared thing. No one's touching you. And it's going to go like click, click, and then check your temperature, write down that you're cool, and then, keep it moving. So that is actually those don't take very long. It's not going to hold up the line too much. And for some people, that is going to make them feel a lot safer, that you walk in and you see that people are being temperature checked. Of course, as we know, it doesn't necessarily, with any kind of, thing, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be showing symptoms in some things to necessarily be able to pass on a virus. So that is also a concern. But, some of this is going to wind up being security theater, and they're going to do it because it's going to make a lot of people feel better to do it. It's like taking your shoes off at the airport.
Do you know that, okay, I promised everybody 30 minutes of lighthearted fun, so we're going to come back to that.
That's me. I don't know what I'm doing today. I'm usually just like...
Because there's actually, I forget the term for it, but there's a term for the fear that developed around the theater experience and what you were talking about, Danielle. And I developed that. I don't know exactly why, because the logical, rational part of my brain knows that the incidence is very rare.
Yep.
And that I will probably not have that experience. But for whatever reason, and I think it's because theaters and the theatrical experience in movies had been my safe place and my happy place for so many years, I did develop that fear. And I wonder if there are people that are going to similarly have sort of, we don't know what the long-term PTSD effects of COVID are, is I guess what I'm trying to get at. And if people are just going to become slightly more agoraphobic than maybe we already are culturally.
Or the opposite. We're all going to want to run back into a hot, sweaty room with each other.
I'm not sharing sandwiches anymore. We was living wild. I'm not doing that again. No, I went to a birthday party 3 weeks before everything really started shutting down. I shared someone's drink. We were wilding. I'm not going back to that. We're done sharing drinks.
Spit sisters. That's not going to be a thing for children.
No. No, and I do, for some people, yeah, it's going to be, they want to get back to normal as soon as possible. But I do think it's going to be one of those generation defining things where there will still be, and I think I've talked about this before, there are still people who, they still can things just because that's what their family did to make sure in case there was like if our food ran out and they couldn't depend on the stores. There are still people who hide gold in the backyard. There are still people who put, their money in the mattress. It's not just something in soul food. There are people who do it. And so I made a joke about it where it's like, we're going to be the generation that just like makes our own bathtub hand sanitizer and buries it in our backyard. Like there are going to be people who are that, there are going to be some people who are going to have lasting like repercussions, and they'll be like the crazy old aunties or whatever.
Yeah, just like every once in a while your grandma made you the Depression era cake that had like no milk or eggs, and you were like, how is this even a cake? But
one of those became our staple.
Delicious.
Yeah, one of those became our staple food. It was called ham and noodles, and it is literally egg noodles and ham, and it is just old German post-war we ain't have no money stuff.
Oh, tuna casserole is what I was raised on. Yeah, it's interesting. I will say, if anybody needs it, I am stocked up on the makings of home hand sanitizer, and I have lots of little bottles because I was planning to make a bunch and give it away, and then everyone was fine, and I was like, oh, never mind. Like every attempt I made to help, just like people didn't need it. So anyway, let's get back to the theatrical experience. I think what we were talking about before, and I think I've long had this like sort of fantasy about the return of the kinds of interesting films, like crazy, and sometimes just straight up not good films that we saw in previous eras, but interesting, like in the 70s. But that's what TV is for. Those great character dramas are for TV. I was watching Killing Eve, the third season. I don't know if Spencer, if you're watching it.
I didn't like the second one, so I've yet to start on the third.
It's good.
Okay.
I did the second season dip, and it's come back.
All right. Great.
And I was just thinking, like, what an awesome time to be an actor. They just have like Villanelle is such an amazing role for her. Anyway, that's where we're seeing that, and I think we're probably right on track that the movie experience will become more rarefied. Although the rollout, I think, will be different, and how they do the metrics, I think, will be different in terms of the return, and it'll be really tough to discern, I guess, outside of survey, how many people are subscribing to any given service because of any given movie. Like that's how people are measured.
Bye, Danielle.
Say it again.
Bye, Danielle.
Do we
She'll be back. She'll be back.
Oh, boo. It's raining in LA. So I blame the rain. I blame the rain.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because this is obviously affecting the movies that have already been shot, but how will it affect the movies that are being greenlit or not? This is a Tenet, like you said, a $200 million movie, maybe. That's something that they already have it, so they might as well put it in theaters somehow to get people to see it multiple times, or to get, just to dip as many times as you can into people's wallets. But will they ever want to greenlight another Tenet, knowing that the theatrical run has lowered expectations like that?
Yeah, two quick comments on that, and Joe, I'd like to go for you. One, it's Terrence Trent D'Arby, Blame It on the Rain. That's an important thing for all of you. Yay, Danielle.
Welcome back, Danielle.
And then the second thing is, this is another thing that I was thinking about, is like if they declare a loss in the theatrical experience because either of these films, quote, underperforms. What does that mean in terms of any back-end deals that exist? And then how do those deals change as this model changes? Because if you guys don't know, sometimes for movies, and I don't know about either of these films, actors and directors will get points. So the more money it makes, the more money they make after the release of the film. Blumhouse, famously, this is their model. So with that in mind, with the metrics changing so dramatically, how do those deals work in the era of streaming?
I just think that, I thought that was rarer these days, but that's interesting that that's how Blumhouse does it. Like, I know, like, Robert Downey Jr. has it for the Iron Man movies, but nobody else in the MCU does.
Well, that's because of Ike Perlmutter being back when he was a big part of the picture. Was like incredibly. Yeah.
And then just to finish up, Joe, is that they know there's always a way to make a movie look like it lost money. Like Forrest Gump lost money. There's ways that it's studio accounting, right? To make it so they don't have to pay people out, is to make movies look like bigger failures than they were.
That's my point, is it's going to be even easier now to do that. And it is rarer, but like Blumhouse, like for example, in The Purge, in the way that they got all of those actors, like Lena Headey, I think that saved her in a crazy divorce where she she was basically going broke, and The Purge saved her because she had all of these points on it. And they pay no money, like their budgets are micro budgets up front, House. So anyway, long story endless on that. Streaming has already changed that because it's changed it in terms of television deals and syndication and like their buyouts, right? Netflix has long been doing buyouts, but I just think it changes it again. The whole structure is going to change.
Well, you had it recently with Trolls World Tour, where it was touted as this thing that's going to break Hollywood and this and that, and look how well the movie did on VOD. Well, meanwhile, the actors are like, "Yo, like we had back end deals. Where's our money?" So I think if that truly is a new normal moving forward, you're going to start seeing those things get restructured as is it going to be more like Spotify deals where like every 5,000 views on, HBO Max or whatever, Rachel Bloom gets 4 cents on Trolls World Tour. But we've already kind of seen it in action with that one, with the back end issue sort of coming into play.
Yeah, I wonder if Sarah has a take on how marketing is going to change for movies, or if it does, because trailers so often go online anyway. And I don't know what the theatrical trailer experience impacts or doesn't.
Well,
no. Like, are they measuring that? How would they know if it's that you saw it online or you saw it in the theater?
I mean, so much of this stuff is proprietary and they don't share it, which makes it really hard to pay people, at least according to the residuals. The way it used to be is, they know how many times your show aired on television, so they pay you accordingly. But who knows how many streams something had on Netflix? They do, but they're not sharing.
No.
Yeah, it will, and it will behoove streaming services to at will decide what constitutes a view or something like that, especially if back end stuff starts to evolve to include talent making digital streaming deals. I think you'll start seeing a lot more sort of weird shady moves as to, oh well, that wasn't a view, that wasn't a you get paid view, that was a front facing view, or whatever.
Which is funny because they're already doing it in the opposite direction to inflate numbers and say like, oh, well, X amount of people, are watching this for the few times they do release numbers. And we know that for some of those, it's okay, but you're counting like that preview that runs while I'm just like have it on pause and reading like the info description, So it'll be interesting because you're right. They're going to be 2 different numbers and they're going to find a way to justify like, oh, well, this is how many viewers we have for this thing, but this is how many count for retention or whatever they call it.
Yeah, the current the metric they changed or announced with The Witcher, might be the front facing, but like a you get paid view is they watch the whole.
But
show.
Netflix is maybe that was a bad example because they do all of their deals in a big cash lump sum up front.
Yeah, it's a buyout, so that basically means it doesn't matter how well it does or doesn't do. You got paid what you got paid way in either event. And that's actually what they only do 3 seasons of television.
Yeah.
And then they're just done paying for it. So know that if you like a Netflix show.
And you're totally, I did cross my streams there with my streaming service examples, but just, I think more, with stuff like a Tenet or a Trolls World Tour.
Yeah.
Well, that's a hard title to say. Did you guys know that?
Trolls World Tour.
Trolls World Tour. Trolls World Tour. Trolls World Tour. Trolls World Tour.
World's Toes.
World Star.
World Star.
Trolls World Star. I would have watched the movie.
World Star.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Like some combination of movies need to be the first one out, right? Like some things have to start progressing forward and almost to I don't know, are these like the sacrificial lambs of blockbuster movies, Mulan and Tenet?
Yes and no, but I think that's a positive intention for Tenet. I think that's part of the reason why Nolan pushed to keep it in July. I think it's a big enough blockbuster to get people in. There's enough audience interest to get people in. I think to your sort of hope and desires about the return of 70s films, Roth, it's a nice enough bridge of a gap where it's like a big blockbuster, but also like a creator, a piece of art done by a creator,
And also, hey, Joe, sorry to cut you off, but you got Wonder Woman. Warner Brothers also has Wonder Woman just the very next month as a studio in August, too. So that might factor into when they can do it because they have another tentpole coming up right after.
Yeah.
Maybe they're using Tenet to test if they should keep Wonder Woman in that slot.
Well, I think too that if there's any long-term value in sort of the cult of Nolan, as in just the value of him as a creator and as a personality, even if Tenet isn't a box office win, it's the story around it becomes, remember when Chris Nolan and Tenet, planted a flag in the sand and like carried movies for a while. There's value to that too. It's not a financial number but for the studio that has an exclusive contract with Chris Nolan, it's like, here's the next movie from the guy that saved movies.
Yeah.
We lost grandma, but we saved movies.
That's the thing is like the other thing that we're not talking about is we have zero idea yet, because right now you have some states opening up and countries opening up, and we won't really know for another month or so. Why am I Southern today? I don't know. We won't really know for another month or so what that means.
Well,
and then if
there will be caravans out of Los Angeles to the nearest theater playing Tenet. Like absolute, Burning Man style art cars, but they're all the Tumblr Batmobile, and they're
gotta
all
do something.
on their way.
Burning Man gonna be canceled. Y'all ain't burning nothing this year. One benefit I will say about releasing Tenet, and I'm sure that's part of the reason they're doing it. I'm sure that's part of the reason why Nolan wants to do it, is because, as we said during award season, like Tenet's a movie that really should be seen in theaters. Like that is a movie that needs the theatrical experience. And like, of course, people who work with Wonder Woman are going to say like, no, you're going to want to see the riding the lightning as big as you can see it. It's like, of course we do, but we're also pretty used to watching those movies at home and on our laptops. It's not ideal, but we are. Tenet is a movie that says you should really go see that in the theater, and you should really pay the money to see that in IMAX.
Yeah.
And I think because they are bottling in that as an experience, like right now, if James Cameron would have had an Avatar ready to go, now would have been the time to release it, because it's not just a movie, it's like a whole ass thing. It's like a ride, that's a movie, that's a 3D thing, that's an experience, and you will pay extra for that. And so if that would have been a thing that was ready now, I would have said like that would be a good thing to test this on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that that's what I'm saying is like, I think they're willing, and because Nolan specifically pushed for it, and they do, like you said, Joe, have that long-term relationship with him, Warner Brothers, that is, I now that we've said it, will start to believe that they're actually testing the waters for Wonder Woman, which has a lot more opportunity potentially to make money than Tenet. And if it's a total disaster, I say that they will push Wonder Woman.
Sure. But I do, as much crap as we give the guy, I do appreciate that for all of his savior of the theatrical experience stuff. When it comes down to it, Chris Nolan has volunteered to take the ring to Mordor, though he doesn't know the way. Like, I do appreciate that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's worth celebrating, and I think you're right, Joe. Like, he's one of the very few directors that was able to make basically multi-million-dollar art house film in inception and have it be successful, because Denis Villeneuve, they just keep letting do it, whether it makes money or not, which is great too. But his are actually making money also, which is an incredible ability to do a blockbuster art film.
And Dune would be coming up on Warner Brothers calendar as well. That you mentioned it. If they move back Wonder Woman, they also would maybe have to start moving back Dune and Godzilla versus Kong, as someone noted in the chat. So it could really start to snowball for the studio.
What else is chat saying?
Somehow we got into some New Mutants love right now. Raul Rodriguez says New Mutants will save cinema. Scorsese wants to see it. Like usual, they're arguing over how Sarah's name is spelled, and that's pretty much it. And other than that, they're engaging in the conversation very well.
Well, just so you guys know, we will never answer that question, ever.
There's no H.
Yeah. So much for that. Good. We're going to move on. We're going to move on pretty quickly. But I also just did want to mention one thing, because it came up in one of our previous shows. We pitched a modern day Save the Ski Lodge movie.
Oh, good. Yes. Let's talk more about this.
Yeah, well, we talked about the appropriate tropes that go into a movie like this. And I proposed that it didn't have to be a ski lodge. It could be anything. Like, for example, a women's volleyball team, which I actually saw on the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows, that basically played into every single one of those tropes, but it was around a bar and a women's volleyball team. So I encourage all of you to go watch that episode. And
Great
see
episode.
how I was.
All right. I'll check
It's
that
so
out.
fun. It was so crazy too. Caleb and I were like, we were just pitching this.
Yeah, I hear again, talking more about TV shows I haven't seen, is that the second season, that's really good too. I watched first
It's
season.
so
Spencer, I think you're gonna like The Great a lot too.
I'm going to watch that tonight. That's on the schedule.
Yeah, we're hooked. It's pretty fun.
All right.
So Joe, it's just you and I that are watching What We Do in the Shadows.
I think maybe. Rads,
No, I'm not caught up.
get on them vampires.
Good. Get on those
I'll
vampires.
go. I will get on them vampires.
Yeah, get on them vampires. All right. Thank you guys for getting on us every day and hitting the bell. Anyway, I like it.
My DMs are about to be really interesting. Thanks, Roth.
Thank you for subscribing to our channel, getting on us.
Get off us, get on us.
Everything, all of it. Videos every weekday. Hit that like and hit that bell for us. A few weeks back. This happened this transition. I am fully Ron Burgundying right now because they added something there and I just transitioned right into it. Anyway, thank you for hitting the bell. It's the #1 way to support us on a daily basis. We will be doing videos for you every single day. Friday reviews, interactive reviews. We're going to be getting your opinions as well. We did one this last Friday with Joe and Eric on Clone Wars. We have one coming up this Friday that I do not know what it is exactly yet because I watched one of the movies in question this weekend. I didn't like it. So with
You
that
can
in
have a
mind,
bad review of something.
yeah, but not if it's like a look back review of this. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Anyway, a few weeks ago, we made this fun NFL draft video with Roxy Stryer and Ed Greer. You should check it out. And we have some fun art to show you from that today. There's a link in the description if you want to go watch the original video, but check out this fun NFL thing. Are you guys into football, Danielle?
This video made me understand football more than any attempts to explain football to me ever. So if nothing else, I recommend you watch it because it will make you understand football using comic book character terms.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. And Roxy, man, she killed it as the host of that video. She's so good.
She likes sports. I like anything that Washington does.
Okay.
If Washington has a team, I will watch them.
These are really nice. Who made these on our team? Anyway, I'll look into that later because they are talented and I'm going to give them a hashtag kudos. All right. Also, I'm going to do a little pitching for a video that's coming out tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And then I'm going to do a little correcting of our script. It says a new recommendation video with Spencer coming out tomorrow morning. Now, we know that just because somebody voices a video series, it doesn't mean they write every single one. We've learned that from Honest Trailers, friends. So Spencer is an amazing VO artist, so we're forcing him to do it a lot more.
Artist,
often. I said artist and I meant it.
I am an artist, yeah.
So
The artist.
I paint portraits with my vocal cords.
That's right. You paint beautiful, beautiful finger paintings, right, with your tonsils. My point is this. We have a new recommendation series for you called Watch This. There's one coming up tomorrow in which Lon Harris somehow got us from Rise of the Skywalker to Inside Llewyn Davis. And you're going to have to watch the whole video to find out how, voiced by Spencer's tonsils. Check it out at 10 a.m. and then 11 a.m. We'll be here live. I'm just giving you the whole schedule. And we have a Hey Fandom right after that tomorrow at noon with Ben Schwartz. So you can ask him all of your Parks and Rec and Space Force questions and Sonic questions at noon. So that's a big lineup for tomorrow. 10 a.m. recommendation video, 11 a.m. we're here with you, 12 Ben Schwartz. You can ask him your questions directly, all in support of Direct Relief, which is helping those people right on the front line of COVID. Okay, now in some sad news, we're going to be remembering two artists, Lynn Shelton and Fred Willard. This is via Deadline and Rolling Stone. So director Lynn Shelton, who's only 54 years old, which I know doesn't seem very young, maybe to some of you, but that is very, very young. And she died Friday in Los Angeles as a result of a previously unidentified blood disorder. That's according to her agent. If you don't know her work, you should go check out Little Fires Everywhere and Glow on Netflix. She directed several episodes of that. She's an award-winning director. She directed a ton of TV shows, episodes of television shows that you really, really love. And also just one of the things that looking into her career just a little bit that I was so impressed by is that she started later in her life. She really started directing at about 40, from what I can tell, at least notably. And that is just an impressive thing to do, is to have the will and wherewithal to, at a midpoint potentially in your life, switch gears and really go after what you want. So I just think that's amazing, and it's very sad. Fred Willard, who is a journeyman actor and comedian, beloved. I'm sure you guys really love him. I know I do. He died at the age of 86. The cause of death was reportedly natural causes. His daughter, Hope Barger, said, "My father passed away very peacefully last night at the fantastic age of 86 years old. He kept moving, working, and making us happy until the very end. We loved him so very much. We will miss him forever." So I don't know if you guys want to mention some of your favorites. Joe, is it A Mighty Wind, or?
Oh man, he's great in A Mighty Wind, but I what is his best guest performance? He's so good in everything, right? I saw someone on Twitter suggest that he was funny in a specific way that no one else was funny. And I think that's the best way to describe Fred Willard. He was just wholesome and dumb and innocent and sweet. And that's hard to keep up in your comedy career. As comedy shifted and changed, and it got more cynical, or it got more absurd, or it got real blue, Fred Willard just kept doing Fred Willard, and it always worked, and it was always super, super funny. There's never any specific punchlines with Fred Willard that I'll ever think of, but just weird sentences that he said, like, "Now that looks like a fast dog," in Best in Show is a stupid thing to say. But it's in my head for all time. Just a very funny, kind man who was very invested in sort of the next generation of comedy here in Los Angeles. He was always so active with the improv community and the sketch community here, where he sure as hell didn't need to be. Like, Fred Willard didn't need to show up at Improv Olympic, 4 times a week, do shows with, Herald class graduates and level 4 grads or whatever in the improv programs here. But he always did. He was always very, very generous with his kind with comedians here in Los Angeles.
Danielle, do you have a favorite performance?
I like he was very the humor always seemed to feel like natural. It didn't feel like he was on the way that some people, it's like, oh, like you're on and you're doing your thing and you're performing and it's funny, but like you are on. Like, I like Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell is on when he's on. Fred Willard just feels like, it was like funny and it came very naturally. I have to talk about Lynn Shelton. Lynn was the arts community in Seattle. You could fit it in a black box theater. There's a lot of us, and we all kind of knew each other, and everyone knew each other. And Lynn was like just a very supportive, like really good person. We weren't like besties, but she was someone that I knew and that I'd hung out with because like my best friends all worked with her and were like some of her producing partners. So it's been kind of like a weird week for me, but it was she, from going back to when she like did movies like Hump Day and the collaborations that she had when she moved to LA. One thing, she had a very distinct style that she had obviously been cultivating, and she was very good about helping out other people and putting her hand on the ladder. She was doing the projects that she wanted to do, and just immensely talented. And yeah, to be able to start, because she'd done stuff before like editing and acting, but to really be able to start your writing and directing career at like 40 and be able to have the resume that she had in that time is just ridiculous. And it's one, I know I say it a lot because a lot of the people that we wind up talking about him here are people who like with Willard, like 80s, that's a good life. Like that's, but 54 is kind of, I don't know, it's getting to me. So it's, if you could go find something, I'm sure she's directed an episode of something that you really loved. And this is going to sound super cliche and stupid, but legitimately, like, if you like people, you love people, you should probably go let them know that, because I know a lot of people right now who wish they had.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Danielle. It's really, I didn't know you knew her personally. So thank you for that. And yeah, 54 is very, very, very young. It is. I know it doesn't feel like it is for many people, but it's very young. And at least she was able to get those years in with doing the work that she loved, and as talented she was able to.
Yeah, man. Like, whatever your thing is, like, go do your thing, man. You want to sell furry art on Instagram, man, just do it. Like, don't let no one stop you. Like, it's time.
It's time.
You have time.
She had a great quote, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was a great quote of hers that was circulating around where it was big. Where she just said, you know, I've never sat and asked permission from, you know, the system and the process in place to create my stuff. I've just created my stuff. That's not the exact quote, but that's sort of the gist. And I think that's such a great sort of part of your legacy and a great, valuable piece of education to leave behind.
Spencer, how are you going to take the lessons that we've been talking about here today and incorporate more kindness into your comedy?
Oh, I was thinking more, my mind's just full of ideas for Instagram furry art. So it's been an honor to do this show with you guys, but I have no time to waste. See me on Fursuit Lover. It's LUVR 69 on Instagram.
Okay, bye-bye.
And a hearty gift to you, Spencer.